At one point I thought about Here It Comes Again. It was the first single, and it was true, Here It Comes Again, you know, the new album. Then I thought, that can sound a little bit like, oh, Here It Comes Again, and people might think, oh, I wish she hadn't bothered, kind of thing. So you do think of all the things that people could get from it. But Reason was, it was quite an obvious title, really. It's one of my favourite tracks on the album. It's a very personal song. And reason is such a great word, and I looked it up in the dictionary, and it has quite a nice, explanation to it. You know, there's a few different ways of using the word reason, and none of it's negative. So that was very important, and it was very fitting, for me. This is my reason. I love to create music and perform music. That's all I want to do. So it's kind of my reason. I finished touring and I went up to stay with my mum for a couple of months just to chill out. I was burnt out, exhausted. I thought I just need to rest. And in fact, I was going to stay up there for a lot longer. But then after 2 months of not doing anything musical, performing or, writing or anything, I was getting twitchy. And I was like, I have to do something now. So it's after the break when you realise there's just a yearning inside you, it's just something I have to do. I never really plan my albums. I just like to go into the studio and see what happens. And, luckily with this one, it came together quite quickly, actually. The songs started coming. And it was all going in a very positive direction. And, now it's finished. It's a very positive record. And it's not something I did intentionally. It just happened. It was quite nice, actually, what came out. And I think with Northern Star as well, it's quite strange. I've found in the past when I've written and expressed emotions, as time goes on, it's become more relevant to my life. So I hope it's true with this record, with it being so positive and up. I hope that things are just, going to continue and get better. Well, I started writing the album in November 2001. And it was quite a nice time, but it was still quite a scary time for me because I'd, eventually got back on my feet after suffering and recovering from depression for a couple of years. So I was a little bit nervous, but my confidence was coming back. And I was working with lovely people I'd worked with before. In the first writing sessions, I was with Phil Thornalley and Marius de Vries. And I've got great relationships with these guys anyway, so it was a nice, comfortable situation to go back into. And then once the music started happening, the confidence did start coming back. And then I met my boyfriend that Christmas, the Christmas of 2001. And so last year has been a great year for me. My personal life has changed dramatically. And I would say that he has really helped me, really conquer all the demons that were battling away inside me. I don't think you ever fully get rid of your demons, and it is a little bit scary sometimes if I have down days like everybody does. It does frighten me to think, if they could take over again. But I think now I've been through it once, if it ever rose, its ugly head came up again, I think I would hopefully be able to deal with it a bit better than I did last time. With time and help and support, I'm definitely, well through it. The reason I do talk about it is for other people's benefit, really. When I was going through all the problems, it was the last thing on earth I wanted to talk about. I was very, very embarrassed about it. But coming through the other side, I do think it is important if there's anybody out there, who is listening to me, and if I could be of any help or just maybe make them, feel like they're going to be okay and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. If anything comes from it, it's great. But I've talked about it an awful lot now, and I'm starting to feel like I don't want to talk about it anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and I don't want to bore people as well. I don't want people to be like, oh God, we should stop going on about that. It's like, it's done now, and I've said my piece, and, hopefully that's enough. We're about to launch the second album, and I've just realised how scared I am. Because nobody knows how it's going to go. great album. I'm very, very proud of it. It's been very well received so far, but the public are going to decide. And, you know, and I just think, oh, imagine if they hate it, you know. So that now I think I was so lucky with Northern Star, and I really appreciate that. And I just hope that, you know, that people like this one too. I think it was time to grow up, really. But you know, everything that I've done as a solo artist has been things that are very comfortable for me at that moment in time. And it's a few years on since Northern Star. I'm growing up now, I'm 29, and I do definitely feel more feminine than I ever did. I think I definitely feel like I might be a woman these days. You know, I'm not so much of the girl. I think that was kind of how I was feeling at the time as well. I was really trying to break away, you know, probably more than I realised, you know, from being in the bands with the girls. And I just, yeah, there was a bit of anger inside me and quite an aggressive feel. And I've expressed that now. So it's time to move on. It was in one of the very first sessions with Marius. We were working on about 6 or 7 tracks. Here It Comes Again was one of them. And, you know, once we got into it, I was like, yeah, we're on our way. This is definitely a single, definitely on the album. So that was it. And after that, it just all fell into place. Sometimes with a song, even when you're in the studio and writing and recording the song, you've got images of how you know, see it go into video. But Here It Comes Again, I was a bit lost. And I knew what I wanted to feel from the video, but I didn't quite know what I wanted to see. I'd been watching a lot of MTV and I feel that there's a lot of really complicated videos around. And sometimes they just don't, you know, they don't complement the song. Sometimes it feels like you're even listening to something else and watching the TV with the sound down. So I wanted something that really complemented the song. And the song, you know, I feel has quite an incessant beat, but it's an optimistic song. So I wanted something that would be, you know, beautifully shot, but just have this kind of, you know, continuous thing going on and escalating and building with, you know, with the emotion of the song. And, you know, sent the song out to a few video directors. And Charles Infante came back with a great script. And it's about people and everybody's running and all going to this point and people are coming together, like clambering over walls to all get to this point and where we all watch the sunset. But the thing which stole it for me, I mean, the pounding of the running was something that really took me. And then I just thought it's such a lovely thing to have, like, all people coming together. I mean, especially, you know, in the world that we're living in these days, you know, it's quite a nice thing to see. The thing with Here It Comes Again is that there's no break in the vocal. You sing from beginning to end of the song. In fact, the vocal ends the song. So it's just, you just need big lungs for that one. And it goes in different parts of your voice as well. So it is quite difficult, but it's fun mastering it as well. Writing Northern Star, I mean, there was such a huge range on so many of the songs, and when it came to do them live, I was like, oh, saying to everyone, please remind me on the next album to write easy songs to sing, you know, because there were some of the songs when we initially went out on tour, I actually couldn't do live. There was just some parts and it was a struggle. As the dates went on, you know, it was great because it expanded my range and made me a lot stronger, so I'm really grateful for that. But then when it came to doing the new stuff live, I was like, oh, I've done it again. I truly believe the only way to become a great artist is to tour and tour and tour and live. And just learn your trade, basically, get out there and do it. And we did 126 shows with Northern Star. And I'd done 106 with the Spice Girls. So it's weird to think I've done more as a solo artist, But it's great, and it's made me a lot stronger, a lot more confident. I've got a lot more control with my voice. But also, you know, as I grow up, the voice improves. And, you know, with women, they say that your voice doesn't really reach its peak until you're in your mid-30s. So I find that very exciting, that there's still a long way to go. I've always done a lot of vocal training, even, you know, times when I've not been out there performing. I try and definitely get a weekly lesson in. I always warm up. I've never smoked. I try and avoid smoky atmospheres. I try not to drink too much, but drinking is something I definitely won't do on the road, because it's so important, and in some ways it's boring, but you know what? You've got to do it. If you've got to respect your voice, because you know, it's my career, and it's, you know, and it's in my hands. So yeah, I do take it very seriously, and I do look after it. Everybody's different, and you know, and I know people that can go out, stay out late, drinking, not warm up, go on stage and do a fantastic performance. I'm just, you know, I'm not like that. But what does worry me about the whole, you know, pop idol phenomenon is the more psychological side of things. Because I know how I was affected, and everybody handles things differently. But that catapult into fame, and then sometimes, you know, just as quick fall from fame as well, is I think something very difficult to deal with, especially because a lot of these kids are like in their teens. You know, I was 22 when it all started, and we'd already been together for 2 years. I mean, which isn't a long time, but we were kind of working towards, you know, becoming famous. That was our dream. But these, you know, kids, it can happen within a matter of weeks. Something that was really important on the making of this album was to keep it as simple as we could, because last time round, I mean, it was fantastic production, but some things were difficult to do live. And I really wanted it to be a great live album to really work on the road. And so that's something we bear in mind. But then again, with something like Water, you get into this, you know, you get a little vocal idea, and it grows and grows and grows, and you can't not do it, you know. I spent my early 20s just reaching out, trying to find things that made me happy. And then when I eventually achieved, at the time, what were all my dreams, and I was absolutely miserable, that's when I started freaking out. And it's actually, it's so funny because, you know, we spend so much time searching, and it's so simple. It's very, very simple. But getting there it can take quite a bit of time. I think actually when the song was written, I was striving for that, but I wasn't quite there. So sometimes it's kind of like a mantra, do you know what I mean? To write a song and to keep singing it and singing it and singing it, and hopefully you'll arrive in that place. So I'm definitely positively somewhere now. Wow. That was Phil Thornalley and Colin Campsey. So that was an old collaboration dating back to, this is amazing. The first time I ever worked with Phil Thornalley was before the Spice Girls were the Spice Girls, before we were signed. So it must have been in about 94, 95. So it's always fun to work with Phil. And he only lives down the road, so I wouldn't have to pay the congestion charge. The most important thing fundamentally is to have a great song. But then when you've got a great song, you've got to get the right production, you know, and sometimes it can prove difficult. With a song like Positively Somewhere, it's a great song, but it is so positive, you don't want to sound like, you know, sugary pop. So Damien Legassic has worked on a few tracks on the album, and he's got a very cool sensibility. And he's just, you know, he's turned around a few songs on the record. I was just so happy with the last record, and having great relationships with these people, it was really obvious to go back into the studio with them. But then, of course, there was new people, and quite often I'm approached by, you know, writers and producers. So it was nice to take up some of these offers. I mean, when you look back at some of the things that the new people I've worked with have done, you know, it's it's fantastic stuff. People like Peter Vitesi and David Arnold and Guy Chambers. So it was a real treat to be able to work with these people as well. Well, I've been really lucky because everybody that I've worked with have been really great people, and we've hit it off straight away. And it's funny because, you know, most people that meet me, especially in a working environment, kind of know quite a bit about me, you know, or they think they do. But I'm quite an open person anyway, so maybe naively, but I'm not really that cagey about anything. It's funny because, you know, when, you know, the David Arnold question was asked, and I was like, oh yeah, you know, the soundtracks and that, oh yeah, I did that great track with Bjork. And I was like, oh, you know, how exciting, love to work with him. And I would tell people would go, oh, who are you working with? I go, oh, I'm meeting David Arnold next week. And they go, oh, David Arnold! And I started thinking, oh my God, and I started getting really nervous. But then as soon as I met David, he's such a cool guy that, you know, it was great. We had such a great time. We had such a laugh working together. We worked on 2 songs, the first of which was Home, which is on the record. Whenever I set about writing an album, a lot of it is very personal, from personal experience. And then there's other stuff that's a bit more make-believe and a bit fantasy. But Home is something that is very, very honest, and I sat down with David and we talked a lot before, you know, we started any work. And, you know, and he expressed how he wanted me to write something that was totally honest, and it didn't even have one word that was just in for the sake of it. Every single word had to count, which is something, you know, that I love to do as well, and I think we really achieved it on that record. I think it's been really, really important, especially over the last few years, when, you know, the crazy years I spent with the Spice Girls. For me, it was quite an isolating time. I think partly that was to do with me, and I wasn't as close to my family as I always had been. And so when I, you know, embarked on the solo career and then started having a few personal problems, it was really nice to get back into the family, and, you know, I'm very close to everybody again. And even with friends that I hadn't seen for a long time, you know, I call them more frequently and we hang out more often. So it was a good turnaround for me. There's a few songs on the album that kind of almost tell the same story, but with a slightly different outcome. You know, something like Home is maybe more of a desperate time, and then something like Melt is in, obviously, you know, a much more positive time. So yeah, it's very much from self-experience, and hopefully, you know, healing yourself and healing the world a little bit too, or having a go. Guy and myself, you know, we were toying with the idea of writing for quite a long time, a few years, just never got round to it. And I was in LA, and then when I got back, he'd been in touch with my manager again. I was saying, oh, let's put a bit of time in. And we were like, oh, we've done the record now. And it's like, well, you know, I've got the time. It's a great opportunity. Can't miss it. We share the same birthday, so he's a wonderful Capricorn. And yeah, wrote a great song, and it just, you know, flowed really easy. One of those lovely songs, and it's one of my favourites on the album. I was in London and I was working up in Primrose Hill with Matt Rowe, and he said, oh, I've got this friend, Greg, who wants to come in and, you know, and write with us. And I was like, Greg who? Greg Alexander? Oh, yeah, I know Greg Alexander. So I said, yeah, that's cool. But anyway, it didn't happen. And then I was in LA, and Rick Nels goes, oh, I've got this friend, Greg, who wants to come in the session. Like, Greg who? Greg Alexander's like, okay. And that did happen that time, which was great, because I think Greg's done some fantastic work. And I had no idea what he was like. I mean, I remembered him from the New Radicals, but, you know, I'd never met him before. And he walked in the room, and he is larger than life, mad as you like, but, you know, the sweetest guy. And he just come in, got this idea for a song, on the horizon, love, you know, started singing, and he was just like, and that's the collaboration where you're trying to get, you know, trying to get a word in. What about this? You know, and he was just flying. He's such a talented guy. So that was a real fun collaboration, actually. For me, it's one of those songs where when I singing the lyrics, I want you to be able to hear me smiling, you know, and I hope, and I think I've captured that in the song. Well, I'd never met Peter, and just upon meeting him, he is such a sweet guy, really, really lovely guy. And again, another writer that said, let's be totally honest, let's really get it out there. And we started off working on a track, and we got a little idea. Scrapped the track, just went to the piano, just very simply started playing a few chords, melody idea, lyric idea, and it was one of those songs that just came very quickly and easily, and they're always the best songs in my opinion. And we were done. I think we'd written it in like a couple of hours. We had it down. We went, okay, we'll go home. We won't record anything. We won't even think or hum or sing the song. Come back tomorrow. We'll go in, try and do it, and see what happens. So I went in the next day, and put down a little piano pass. I went in and sang it first off, you know, we got it. And so we thought, yeah, it's definitely a good song, it's definitely worth it. As soon as I heard it, I was saying, wow, what a great song, but I was a bit scared. And with it being written by Paul Buchanan, and he'd sang the demo, and he's got such a distinctive voice, and it was just so expressive, and I just thought, I don't know if I can do this justice. You know, it freaked me out a little bit, but I thought, no, be strong and give it a go. And so I did quite a lot of work, actually, before I went into the studio. I did a lot of work on Sailboy, and I'm really pleased with how it worked out. And Paul's heard it, and he's very pleased. In the writing, we had about 40 songs, and I think we probably mastered about 14 or 15. And because last time with Northern Star, we were just mastering left, right, and centre, and we had so many mixes and remixes, and it was so expensive. So we learned quite a few lessons on the last record. Well, I listen to lots of different genres of music. I think like everybody on the planet, I love Coldplay at the moment. You know, they're such a great band. I've always been a big fan of Oasis. Very excited about Blair's new album coming out this year. And then on a poppier side, or more commercial side, I think Christina Aguilera is amazing. I mean, what a voice. Justin Timberlake, so talented. Who else? Pink, I think, is doing great things. I think there's a real wealth of talent out there at the moment. Let's Love is another Phil Fonali and Dave Munda, actually. We worked on that track, and that was one that right away, because they started playing me this riff, and it was like really Stonesy, and I just thought, yeah, like that's like proper rock and roll. So we started writing that, and then with Yeah Yeah Yeah, I wrote with Rhett Lawrence, who I wrote Never Be the Same Again with. So how different can you be? You know, it's a very, very different track. And he again was working on a guitar riff, and we started writing that, and it really brought, you know, memories back of being on stage. And I just thought how great to write a song that is about the gig. And basically, you know, that's what it's about. It's about the gig and the after show and the audience. And I just thought, I'm hoping it's going to be, you know, one that's going to really get everybody going, and they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. My lifestyle isn't very rock and roll at all. But I don't think any rockers are these days, are they? It's all changed. It's all a bit herbal and spiritual now, isn't it? I would like to be able to play, but I think, I mean, one day, gotta have these little creative visualization sessions. I'd love to, acoustically, I'd love to be able to play and sing. That's something I really want to aim towards. Almost anything can lend itself to being covered acoustically. On the last record, we actually used to do Going Down acoustically. So if that can be done acoustically, you know, I think almost anything can. But it's a great way to work. I really enjoy it because, you know, the vocal is so exposed. It really gives you room to really play with the notes and the words, and it's a nice way to work. Well, the only thing that I'm not doing that I did last time is having an elaborate set. I just, don't feel it's necessary. I just simple, everything I want to be simple. I don't want to take anything, any distraction away from, the band, the music. I've got great musicians. I've got 3 new people in the band, 2 new girls and a guy, a new bass player, keyboards and rhythm guitar, all doing backing vocals, which was something really important to me because I saw Pink and her band play at the MTV Awards. And when they came up to sing the BVs and the choruses and stuff, it was really strong. And I just thought that was a really good image. And I thought, yeah, that's something I really want to capture. And it was great to get really strong vocalists in the band. And it's a great new dynamic. And the new stuff sounds great live as well. When I go to gigs, I want to hear songs how they are on the record. And I'm sure there's people out there that I'd like us to be, a little bit more creative, but I truly feel, the challenge of going out and doing it live is making it sound like what you produced in the studio, and especially with singles. I think of an artist like Madonna, and she's been singing like a virgin since 1982. I suppose there you might want to, change things, as she has many times. She sang it in many different ways, but for me right now, I want to just do it like it was. I just think as I'm getting older, I don't think I'm going to jump around as much. I think I was a bit of a kangaroo on the last tour. So I think I'm just going to chill a little bit. I'm getting a bit older now, so my bones can't take it. Maybe I'm telling complete lies and I'll get back out there again and I will run around like a lunatic, but I just think I want to be a bit more demure these days. I think the sporty spice in me is very much of my youth, and it's the part of me that likes to jump around and get noticed and I still love having fun, but now I think as I get older it is fading, but there'll always be a little sporty in me. That sounds funny. It is sporty spice that is in the Spice Girls, and it is very much Melanie C as a solo artist. I'm 2 very different people, and I think it's only just like anybody is. You speak very differently to your friends as you do to your parents, or to somebody in authority. We have these kind of different sides to our personality. Being in a band is so different to being a solo artist. In fact, you're a different person, and quite exciting as well, being able to express yourself as an individual after such a long time. Do you know what? At the time, I had a whirl of a time. I loved it. But I think once I'd had the opportunity to go off and do my own thing, that's when I realised how restricted I really was. And that's when the frustration set in, really. I have to admit, I do have a lot of Spice Girls fans. They are still Spice Girls fans. They're Melanie C fans, they're Mel B fans, they're Emma fans, they're all of us. They're fans to all of us. But there was also a lot of people who weren't ready to accept me as a solo artist, and it was almost, people wouldn't buy the record because I was a Spice Girl. So I think it was 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I'm very, very proud of what we achieved with the Spice Girls, and that is something that I imagine is never going to leave me. People are never going to see me as just me, so I can accept that. I'm quite happy with that. The Spice Girls reunion, I don't know. I always answer this question, never say never. But right now, I'm sure that all the girls and myself are very happy doing what we're doing. So it's not going to happen. And if it is going to happen, it won't be for a long time. I just want to be successful with this record. It would be nice to be able to continue at the same level of success. But what would be even nicer would be to do better America would be fantastic if we could break America. It would be great to fly the British flag out there. You know, there's a few people that are cracking it just now, but I'd love to do that. Get out there, tour, and get to places I've never been before. I've never toured South America. I'd love to do that. I'd like to get out to Australia again. Everywhere really. So I'm happy, kind of plodding along with my little record and just taking it to the ends of the earth, because there's a huge fan base and they're so supportive, and I just feel it's really important to try and get to them all. Well, I'm very ambitious, I'm very determined, I'm very hardworking. But sometimes, qualities like that can be quite a negative thing as well. So it's kind of trying to pull the balance, which has been the secret really. It's kind of stop giving myself such a hard time, stop trying to be a perfectionist and just all things like that. But I think the determination, is something. I completely believe in fate. I think this was the road that was mapped out for me. Some of it, I suppose I wish it didn't have to be that way, but then again, I've felt emotions that I'd never felt before, so hopefully that can only enrich, my skills as an artist. So always look for the silver lining. Hi, I'm Melanie C, and here's my new single, Here It Comes Again. Hi, I'm Melanie C, and here's my new single, On the Horizon. Hi, I'm Melanie C, and this is Positively Somewhere. Hi, I'm Melanie C, and here's Melt. Hi, I'm Melanie C, and here's Yeah, Yeah, Yeah.